Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Good old eerie thread. Let's have a good old-fashioned thread where we discuss eerie things that have happened to you, or places you've been where nothing jumped out at you, but you know something was going on. I'll start. Be me. On a long trip, heading out west with two friends. Driving alone, other friend had brought a longtime chick friend for company, and he was hoping to nice guy his way into a relationship. Sorry, it never happened, Jake. Can't believe you thought it would work. In the Flatlands near the Kansas-Colorado border. Bored, I need to stretch my legs. Using walkie-talkies with code names to chat between cars because why not? Slow down and get within range of them, and tell them I want to pull off soon to take a break, so be ready. See some exits leading to nowhere go by. See an exit to something named Hannah, if I recall correctly. Looks like it has some kind of amenities. Good enough. The exit is on an artificially raised hill, if I recall correctly, with an overpass leading to it. Go up the exit ramp. See a whole cluster of buildings, some kind of old-looking, some kind of new. Nobody is around at all. Realize the buildings are definitely abandoned. Whatever. Good enough to stretch my legs. We got out, a little curious about this place. Looks completely abandoned, but not old, like it sees some kind of activity, or has until recently. Many of the buildings aren't even boarded up, and some of the doors are open or removed entirely. Get a bad feeling about this place. Can just tell we're not supposed to be here. Friends want to explore and poke around the buildings. Tell them, nope, we're heading out. So we do. Felt like there were people or something just around the corners watching us. Could tell we were trespassing somehow, even though it was a public place. Felt like its own place, separate from the outside world. Been back through several times. Looked for the exit every time. Have never seen it again. It's like it never existed. Anyone know of this place? Any stories of your own?
What is even Wyoming? Back in 2010, which doesn't seem like a long time ago at all in all reality, some really messed up shit happened that I am even scared to speak about. I'm not sure what it was nor what happened anymore. I had to share this story somewhere, but I was too scared to even talk about it to my closest friends. B14. I was on a trip to Wyoming for a family reunion. The house is in the middle of nowhere. It is an old, mostly wooden but mixed with bricks house on a lonely dirt road that acts as an extension of a road that ended around 500 feet back. On the other side of the road is a motel owned by my uncle. The motel has a gas station, a small bar or restaurant type of room, like a regular bar or restaurant but way smaller. Apparently it is where they eat. The nearest grocery store is like 57 miles away or something. We at the time were living in Omaha, Nebraska, so the trip was rather long but not as bad. We arrived at 1:30 p.m. We meet and have lunch with family. My dad's side, by the way, Fingolian heritage. We decided to stay at the motel for the night. My uncle grabs me and my sister and says that we should stay out and sleep in a trailer with him, but does not explain why. What the fuck? JPEG. We booked it for the night. The old man has not spoken a word to us after. I originally thought that this was going to be a long week, and I was correct. I wake up in the middle of the night. I see a masked or dark figure millimeters from the window that was mostly covered with curtains. Even though I just slightly opened my eyes, it somehow got startled, crouched, and ran away as soon as I saw it. I'm freaked the fuck out. I cannot call the police because the nearest police department is like on the other side of the state, and there is no signal either. I decided to wake up my sister and uncle. My uncle stares at me worried sick. "You kids must get out of here now." He took his 12-gauge supplies and we took our stuff and blankets. We drove off. After an hour and a half or so, we get to the end point. We end up in a weird mix of desert, hills, and forest. My uncle says we set up a tent and sleep there and that he will have to watch us for the night. He mentions that we have to leave our family be. Now I am really getting worried. I feel like throwing up. I was lightheaded and passed out. A shit ton of adrenaline was rushing through me constantly. I woke up the next morning after an awful nightmare. My sister is awake, but she is panicking outside. I ask her what is going on. She has a huge cut on her wrist and the uncle is nowhere to be seen. Neither is his 12 gauge. We have no way of contacting our parents. We both start crying. After we calm down, we decide we will have to live here. We gather all supplies we can and either live it out or wait until we die or try to walk back home or drive. Both were not wise ideas. I bandage up her wrist. We have done nothing but played cards the whole day and ate less. The next night I experience the same nightmare and same figure. I decide to pick up a dagger and check the situation out. I go outside. Nobody is there. I start searching and feel an unpleasant smell like boiled rotten eggs, burned tires, and a metallic or blood smell. I find a bush where a man is obviously hiding. I sneak up to it and try to stab it. The loudest screech I have heard in the world. It starts spasming out. I was paralyzed for like 10 seconds. I start running away and it starts chasing me. I am screaming for help and crying at this point. I thought this thing is gonna kill me. I throw the dagger at the thing and it just runs away. I just ran away to the trailer and locked the doors, closed the blinds, and stayed up the whole night. The next morning we heard a knock on the door that woke up my sister. It is our grandma. She has a black eye. I asked her what happened. She said the family went looking for you and followed the dirt trails of the trailer. That is probably how that thing got to us. She said she was attacked by some screeching person and that she ran away. What the actual literal absolute complete fuck.jpg. I tell her the story, and we make it through the rest of the family. Nobody has any idea where my uncle went. We got back to Nebraska earlier than expected. My parents say that there were screeching, banging, and scraping sounds at the motel. My uncle was never found. He is still missing. We contacted the authorities in Jackson, Wyoming after a long ride. I am not sure, but I honestly think he put us away from the motel because of that creature, and possibly was taken away by it. I still miss him.
I was a junior in high school and had just gotten my own truck, which meant that I was essentially free. I was driving to a somewhat nearby town in Colorado to meet some friends to hang out. On the way home, I was driving by myself late at night. I wasn't super familiar with the roads, so a downed sign made me miss my turnoff onto an old dirt road shortcut. I ended up driving almost 10 miles the wrong direction before I decided to turn around. Just as I was getting ready to make a U-turn, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It was big, not super massive, but very large. It was sitting on a large stone gatepost and turned its head and looked at me as I began to pass it. It was hunched over and looked like it was eating something or resting, but as it stretched out, it had to be 6 to 7 feet tall. It had eyes, but they didn't glow like birds or non-human mammals do. It looked at me, and then opened its 12 to 15-foot wings, and with 2 quick beats it was so high I could no longer see it. It didn't scare me at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I knew it couldn't be a bird. It had a defined neck, etc., or anything else. It reminds me of the Mothman stories, but just slightly different. I saw it several other times after that, but only in brief glances. It liked to follow my car at night, or fly fast and low across the road in front of me. 2 other people saw it with me over the 4 to 5 months it followed me. Almost 13 months to the day that I first saw it, I had a good friend die, and I never saw it again. Locals in the area say they have seen huge birds, but have only seen their shadows, outlines in the dark, etc. It scares the hell out of me to this day.
Thought I'd share a story of my own. A little background. I live in Colorado but worked in Wyoming, so every weekend I drove home and for Monday had to make the 250-mile trip back up. I started work at 5 in the morning, so I was driving very early in the morning. I have been doing this for about a year. The craziest thing I saw was wrecks, the worst being one where a guy's arm was hanging on by maybe skin. Early September. I am about halfway there, just about out of Denver. It begins to get very foggy. I cannot see more than 2 lines in the road in front of me. The fog is so thick it looks like you could physically touch it. No fucks given.jpg, I continue driving. I get out my phone to take a picture of the crazy-ass fog to show my family next weekend. My phone is dead. It was charging all night and there was no reason for the battery to drain that fast. I did not think anything of it and continued driving. 30 minutes pass and I keep thinking I should have passed another town by now. My headlights are flickering and I start to panic, hoping they do not go out because I would be forced to stop. My truck shuts down and I am panicking because there is nowhere to pull off and somebody could easily hit my truck. I am also freaking out because I have no phone. I realize I had a spare alternator in my truck because of a previous incident where the voltage regulator was blown, not the alternator. I get out of my truck and start to get to work, trying to bust ass. Taking the belt off and getting tools ready, I start hearing faint noises sounding like a girl screaming. I ignore that shit and chalk it off to my mind playing tricks on me because of the spookiness. I continue hearing it. It sounds far away, but not too far. I cannot see shit anyway, so I keep going. A car passes, and I do not think they even notice me. But it makes me feel better for whatever reason knowing I am not totally alone in this shit. I have the old alternator off and the new one in my hands. I hear a very loud, very close woman screaming, "No, nope.jpg." My body is literally trying to shut down. I keep trying to get my shit together and end up dropping a ratchet I had sitting on top of my radiator. I get under the truck to fetch it, and I feel very vulnerable to whatever was freaking me out. I get up, and like a horror movie, a woman in a white nightgown is literally standing there. She is late 20s or early 30s, skinny, brown hair, brown eyes, maybe 5'5". I nearly jump. My mind is drawing a blank. I wanted to scream or say something, but nothing would come out of my mouth. I am hearing this screaming as if it is in my head. No. The woman's face is expressionless, and she is saying nothing. I manage to get a hold of myself, and the only thing I can think to do is run to my door and get inside my truck. I am scared, thinking she is a witch, and I am fucked. I kinda tell myself if this is my time, it is my time, trying to accept this shit. The woman has disappeared. I sit in my truck looking everywhere for the woman. I do not see her, and I am assuming she crawled under my truck. I do not know why. It seems like an hour later, but probably only like 10 minutes go by. I see headlights. I turn on and off my headlights trying to flash them at the car, just hoping it would work. I shit you not, my headlights turn on, but the car does not stop. I guess it is lucky my dumb ass did not unplug the negative cable from the battery, but it gives me courage with those lights, so I jump out of the truck and look underneath. Nothing is there. I get the new alternator on. I forgot which plug goes to which, so I just do what I think is right. There are 2 identical plugs on the back of the alternator. Not sure what it would fuck up if you plug the wrong one into the wrong plug. I am all done. I start up the car and get the fuck out of there. It is still foggy. I did not hear anything else. I still to this day cannot explain it. And no one but my family believes me. And they only believe that shit because we lived in a seriously haunted house for 15 years. I had the old alternator tested at AutoZone, and it came out good. As I suspected, whatever killed my truck was paranormal. 3 years later, I still daily drive the truck, but I do not work construction anymore. I still have the same battery and alternator with no problems. My mom thinks it was a banshee and was scared shitless when I told her about this, because supposedly when you hear them scream you die or some shit. Anyway, hope someone reads my story because it took forever to type out.
Here's a story that happened last year. Be me, my fiancé, my brother, and his wife. We are staying at our family's cabin in the Bighorn Mountains just outside of Ten Sleep, Wyoming. The coolest thing about this cabin is that it is in the middle of nowhere, and the nearest neighbor is like 10 miles away. Back in the 90s, there used to be gypsy caravans that would travel through the mountains herding their sheep and cattle, but they have not lived here for almost 10 years. They used to have big bonfires, and people used to come from all around the valley to drink gypsy hooch, listen to them sing and play music, and dance. It was an awesome time. The caravan trails that they would take through the forest leading from one side of the mountain to the other are still there. Me and my brother have wandered through the woods in these mountains for decades, and we know them pretty well. But we have never gone on any of the caravan trails because while we were growing up, we were told that the trails were haunted. Our great uncle, who has lived there his whole life, told us that when the gypsies moved over from Romania in the 30s, they brought something bad with them, some kind of curse or evil spirit. He was half Cherokee and always told us the spookiest stories, so we just believed him. And as we grew older, we just decided it was probably best to not go on them since we were not familiar with them. Anyways, now we were in our late 20s and decided that we were going to stay at the cabin with our womenfolk with us. And it might be fun to go backpacking in some familiar woods for some cool bonding time. Both my brother and I were carrying sidearms, Star Bonifacio Echeverria 9mm and a Glock G19 for all you /K/guys out there. And we thought that besides carrying for safety, it might be fun to plink around a little bit while we are out there. We left the cabin pretty early. It was mid-July, and even though it is at a higher altitude and cooler, it can still get hot during the day. And if any of you have ever been mountain climbing, you know how shitty it can be climbing around in salt scrub and rocks when you are hot, especially when you are carrying backpacks. We catch the first crest of the mountain and set some paper targets up that we have brought with us. We make sure our backstop is appropriate. And me, my brother, and our girls take turns shooting the targets when all of a sudden we hear a yelp. Nobody had seen anything behind our targets, and there was no ricochet. We went to where the noise was, and there was a trail of blood leading away from behind our target, with tracks that looked like what we had assumed were coyote tracks. The girls were feeling bad for the little guy. My bro and I thought good riddance, and they wanted us to find it and put it out of its misery. Sadfaces.jpg. So we went in the direction of the blood trail, and my brother noticed that the tracks were different. Like they looked like coyote tracks, but larger and slightly misshapen. We thought that perhaps maybe the tracks were messed up because it had been shot, so we do not think anything of it. We followed those tracks or blood trail for at least 5 miles and never found a damn coyote. My bro and I are getting pissed because we are off the trail we originally wanted to go on and would have to backtrack. Plus, we really wanted to find this coyote and skin it for the pelt. The girls are upset because they are really concerned that the coyote is really hurt and they do not want it to suffer. What bothered us the most was that we had been tracking this thing for a long time, and it had lost a lot of blood, and we still had not found it. All of a sudden, the tracks and blood trail stopped, in the middle of nowhere. But right where it stopped was the gypsy caravan trail. My bro and I were kind of spooked, but we are just trying to ignore it because there is no way that childhood stories about a gypsy curse or whatever is going to scare us. The girls are more worried about why the blood seemed to stop and there was no critter. Honestly, we had stopped giving a shit about the coyote a long time ago, so we did not really care. We were more interested in the gypsy trail now. So, if we went 12 to 13 miles one way, it would lead back down to the main road, which would eventually lead us back to the cabin. But if we went the other way, it was only about 7 miles, and we would eventually end up at Meadowlark Lake, a pretty big reservoir that a lot of the smaller communities in the area got their water from. We decided that it was a shorter hike, and since we were adults now, and did not believe in that kind of stuff anymore, and we were carrying sidearms, that we would be just fine. So we decided to go right onto the trail. We never told the girls about the so-called gypsy curse. It was around 3:30 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so we still had some daylight left, but it would be getting dark before too long. So while we could still wander on the trail for an hour or two, we should be looking for an appropriate place to set up camp and start cooking a little bit of dinner. The first hour or so was just absolutely amazing. As we had never been down this path before, everything was new, and we were all really enjoying just soaking in the scenery. The further we went down the trail, however, the quieter the woods seemed to get. Not many squirrels or birds chirping, which during the summer in Wyoming the critters kinda get pretty loud, and even the breeze kinda died down. It really made you feel kinda boxed in. My bro's fiancé calls out, "What is that up ahead?" It is a camp. But not just any camp. It is a gypsy camp. An abandoned fucking gypsy camp, with old caravan trailers from like the 60s. There is a small ring of these trailers, all rusted out and dirty, with a huge fire pit in the middle. So at this point we are a little wigged out. Mostly because this is an abandoned gypsy camp, and lingering in the back of my mind is my uncle's stories about the gypsies. But it does not seem like there has been anyone here for 10 to 15 years, and the sun is starting to get pretty low. So we decided to set up camp here for the night. Because why would you not set up camp in a goddamned abandoned gypsy camp? Am I right? The girls start setting up the little sleeping bags or mini tents we had in our backpacks. We were not staying in those rusted out caravans, while my bro and I start collecting firewood for supper and the rest of the night. While we are collecting firewood, we start talking to each other about how this whole thing is kind of trippy and cool and exciting all at the same time. And we notice that the woods have become like dead quiet. We decide it is best to get back to the girls since we have got both of the guns. And when we get back, the girls look a little frazzled. They asked us if we heard the animal making weird noises while we were out collecting wood. And we tell them we did not hear shit, like literally did not hear anything. They point out the direction of where the noises were coming from, and my brother goes walking over there to check it out while I start the fire and start prepping stuff for dinner. Apparently the girls have completely forgotten about the noises they heard and decide to play some music and unwind a bit because why the hell not? We are on vacation and supposed to be having fun. My brother comes back white as a ghost and tells me that the blood trail we lost is right through a copse of trees. We decide not to tell the girls and try to keep the evening lighthearted, but my brother and I stay on pretty high alert. We tell some pretty good stories by the campfire. Mainly ones my great uncle used to tell us when we were younger. Given the nature of these stories, we are all on edge. Too spooky for me. We decide it is getting late. We want to get to bed so we can wake up early and get the fuck out and head towards the reservoir and do a little swimming, maybe a little fishing. Everyone gets into their tents and lays down for bed. I cannot sleep for shit though. There are no bugs chirping, no frogs, no night birds, nothing. While we were chatting it up by the fire, nobody noticed, but it was dead quiet. I am laying in my tent straining to hear the faintest noise to no avail. The only noises I heard were the girls sleeping and Broski snoring. An hour or so of laying down trying to sleep, and the most ungodly scream I have ever heard comes from the woods maybe 50 to 60 yards away. It was not a bobcat, and it was not a coyote or brown wolf. I grab my sidearm and dart out of my tent, and within seconds my brother is doing the exact same. The girls are freaking out asking us what it is, and we are trying to get them to shut up so we can listen. On the complete opposite side of where the noise originally came, the noise comes again. Just like a massive snarling scream. Just beyond the tree line there's something just fucking massive. I mean, this thing has got to be 8 feet tall and built like a goddamn linebacker. It starts moving toward us, and my brother and I both grab our sidearms and start unloading our magazines at this thing, and it takes off in the other direction. The girls are bawling their eyes out, and my brother and I are just staring at each other like, what the fuck do we do? Do we go after it? We decided the best thing to do is try to take shifts sleeping and watching the rest of the night, but I'm pretty sure nobody got any sleep. All night long we would hear that scream, but it was moving further and further away from us each time it screamed. The next day we broke camp as soon as daylight showed its face. Luckily, the noises of the forest had started back up. Nobody really wanted to eat breakfast. Nobody really wanted to talk. I think we were all just trying to figure out what had just happened to us. When we got to the reservoir, we went to a diner and got some lunch and called up a cousin to pick us up and bring us back to the cabin, which we promptly left after gathering our things and went back home. I've been back to the cabin since and never had any other encounters of the sort. I've just never gone back to the Gypsy Trail, and I don't plan on it anytime soon. I'm not sure what the fuck it was, but I don't want to meet it again.
Maybe Bigfoot usually stayed in that gypsy camp and drove one of those gypsy carts. That's why the blood trail disappeared for a bit? Outlandish, but hey, this is /X/.
Sorry, I didn't die. Just haven't been on /X/ the past couple days. There weren't a whole lot of details that I could really make out. Just tall, big, muscular build, maybe hairy. Like I said, it was behind the tree line and it was dark out. The area was only lit up by remnant of fire and what vague moonlight filtered in through the trees. Well, if it was Bigfoot, we definitely shot it. I feel like if it was extremely aggressive, it would have attacked. I honestly think we were passing through its territory, which was why it was screaming and terrorizing us. Also, if we had shot it earlier, then that would make sense as to why it was pissed. I just don't know if it was actually Bigfoot or not, because it was nowhere to be seen when we originally were shooting targets, yet that's where the blood trail started.
I believe this one is somewhat well known, at least in the area. I went to college in Colorado. Not to the University of Denver, but I was near enough to encounter this story through multiple sources and visit the building involved a handful of times. I never personally experienced anything there, so this isn't like a Greentext or anything. Basically, there is a building on the campus which mostly has administrative offices and some classrooms. It is about 3 stories tall, except for a tower which is not very wide, but extends to about 5 stories. I had the chance to visit the building on several occasions, both for academic reasons and generally trying to poke around. I attended a seminar in one of the large rooms on the 2nd floor, which looked to be at least in part a library, as the room was walled with bookshelves. It was furnished in an old style with very dark woods, but the books did not have the organized character of an active library. They were haphazard on the shelves. Some universities have very nice rooms where seminars, talks, and catered luncheons are given. They meticulously furnished and organized to receive people who may be visiting academics, dignitaries, or benefactors. This room was not that. Maybe it was at one point, as it had a strong elegance about it, but it seemed to be a place that was normally shut away and used only of necessity. Later occasions where I visited the building were purely because I encountered it on my way to other areas of campus. I had to visit the library there from time to time, and decided to pass through. The tower was, of course, the alluring part of the building, and I spent a little effort in trying to get up there. Unfortunately, me being a visitor to the campus and it being an active building, I didn't just want to barge in somewhere that may be an office or something. The building is constructed in the old style of a hall with staircases at either end, which do not lead to the tower in the middle. There is a staircase which extends from one of these toward the middle of the building, but I have not been all the way up it due to signs advising that it is a private area. Another way up is an absolutely ancient-looking elevator which forms the center of some of the folklore around the building. Some of the stories say that the upper levels of the tower are accessible only by the elevator, which looks believable when one studies the building, but I can't imagine that to be true due to fire codes. People say they have heard the elevator going from floor to floor late at night when they are the only people working there. The tower is narrow, and I can imagine that the elevator opens either directly into the offices or into a very small alcove adjoining them, so it would be hard to use it unnoticed. The elevator itself is extremely small. 3 people would be about the absolute limit to its capacity. I never tried it. I have never been able to revisit the room in which I attended the seminar. It was always locked. There you have it. As I said, no personal creepies, no Greentext, just some stuff that I was proximal to.
Be me. Decide to hike along the Colorado Flatirons, get to an isolated spot away from the main trail after an hour or so. Spark up the blunt that I brought with me. Take in as much as I can. God damn, this shit is beautiful. Suddenly I get a really eerie feeling. Chalk it up to paranoia. Finish my blunt and admire the sun as it approaches the horizon. The eerie feeling is even stronger. Ignore it and admire the view. Remember recent puma and black bear sightings. Realize I'm alone and spaced, bringing my pocket knife. Feeling gets overwhelming. I decide it's time to head back down, get back to the main trail, still creeped out. But there should be people close enough to yell out to. Hear rustling. It's coming from where I just was. Nope, the fuck out of there. Book it down the mountain for at least 15 minutes. The feeling is still there. See people. The feeling is so strong, I just want to get off the mountain, sprint past everybody hiking as I'm running down the trail. I can't shake the feeling, so I keep sprinting. Make it down from the main trail after about 25 minutes. Exit the tree line into the clearing before the entrance to the trail. A wave of relief flashes over me. What the fuck was that about? Chill for a second, recover from sprinting. Suddenly, a fucking glowing blue humanoid figure flies between my glasses and my face, right next to my fucking eyeball. The body is glowing an ethereal blue and can't make out any real detail. Wings aren't solid, more like rays of light shaped like wings. Flies extremely close to my eye before phasing through my glasses and disappearing. The figure is probably less than an inch tall, but the encounter only lasted about a second, so it's hard to truly gauge. Definitely was a thing I saw in front of my eyes. Can't tell if I'm hallucinating or not. Extremely fucking confused.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.